Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast. Join your host, Nicole Cox, as she dives into the real stories, tips, secrets, and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside the trade world. Nick is here to help you break free from the grind, reduce money stress, and build a trade business that truly works for you. So grab a brew, put your phone on silent, and get ready to be inspired.
You are listening to a little bit of history today. Today marks our 700th podcast episode for the Tradies in Business podcast, formerly known as the Tradie Business Show. I'm going to share a little bit of the history today for any of our newer listeners. It still surprises me how often I have the amazing ability to talk to trade people and they tell me that they've been listening to the podcast right back from the very, very, very beginning, which is a very long time ago now. My understanding is we are still the longest running trade business podcast. It's a title I won't be letting go of anytime soon. The podcast started without me, believe it or not, but of course do. This was Warwick's baby, and he started with his then business partner, Michaela, all the way back in November 2014. I can't believe it's that long ago. So we've been going for 11 years now. That's incredible. And we're up to our 700th episode. So back in 2014, Warwick and Michaela began the podcast, and they had a weekly podcast, much like it was when it was Warwick and I working together, where they spoke all things business development. This was part of how I came to meet Warwick and Michaela. We were actually at a blogging conference on the Gold Coast, and Michaela spoke at the conference, and I had the opportunity to introduce myself to Michaela, which led to my chance to be on the podcast. And my debut on the podcast was as a guest, as the builder's wife, as I was known all the way back then. Their episode was titled The Tradie Business Show, episode number 140, Real Tradie Stories with Nick, the builder's wife. That was back in June 2016, June 19th, 2016. I can remember just being terrified to dial in and do this podcast. I'm pretty sure I did it over the phone. It was kind of before the Zoom days. Did it over the phone, dialed in, did the episode. Couldn't remember a thing I'd said by the end of the episode. I was just so panicked. It was my first my first podcast, of course, but also my first sort of media opportunity in a really, really long time. So it made me incredibly nervous. But both Warwick and Michaela were amazing hosts. They made me feel as comfortable as possible. And we had a really, really great time. And who would have thought just 2 years later, on November the 2nd, 2018, we had our very first Tradies in Business episode. So at that point, the podcast changed its name. So it was the Tradies Business Show right up until the 29th of October 2018, when Woz did a solo episode. It was episode 202, where he announced that change was coming. And then the very next week, or a couple of days later, really, we jumped on together and changed the name, announced the change of the name, and me jumping on as co-host. In between the Tradie Business Show and Tradies in Business, Warwick had a small period of time. There were a few episodes that he did solo as well. Before then, he asked me to join him on the podcast, and Tradies in Business was born. Many of you know that story. Tradies in Business was born over the worst coffee still I've ever had in my life. And Warwick used to say the same, at the Plainlands Service Centre. At the time, Warwick lived in Toowoomba and I lived in Ipswich, so it was kind of the midway point. We came together. I came to talk to him about potentially working with his clients in a very, very different way to complement his coaching business that he had at the time. He came down to talk to me about jumping onto the podcast, and somewhere in between, we discovered a really mutual passion for trade business owners and helping them find their way out of difficult times or prevent them where we possibly can. And Tradies in Business was born. We spent some amazing years working together and hosting the podcast together. It would appear some 498 episodes. Actually, that's not quite right, because I've done quite a few episodes solo this year myself. Let me have a look how many I've done this year. Well, not as many as you think. Solo episodes. I think I'm up to about 20 solo episodes. So 480 odd episodes we did together, which is just phenomenal in a short period of time. That's back from 2018 all the way through to last year, 2024. We spent together co-hosting the podcast. We had so much fun. We had such amazing guests. We did a lot of riffing off one another, did a lot of laughing, and had just a great bunch of fun that we know has contributed to a lot of business journeys, which is a real point of pride for myself. Probably my favorite thing, there's two favorite things we did with the podcast. So we went from a normal conversational episode and an interview, which is the two sort of styles of episodes that we did. We introduced a few different types. We had right back in 2018, we started off with our Fuck It Friday episodes, where it was Friday and we could just shoot the shit, talk about life or the things that were frustrating us. We had so much fun with those episodes. They were a really great opportunity for even Warwick and I to get to know each other on a deeper level through the podcast. That was really cool and contributed to a lot of really awesome opportunities and conversations that came off the back of it with others. The other thing we did was introduce our Real Tradie Stories. So we've spoken to a lot of real tradies who have shared their journeys over here on the podcast. And I think they're some of the most inspirational stories that we have had here. They're a great way for other tradies not to feel alone, because I think one of the things I still really despise about the trades industry is how insular it is. None of us really understand just how common the issues and the frustrations we have, unless we happen across a podcast where somebody's sharing or we join a community where people are open and vulnerable. But it just doesn't happen. We're so insular. We don't talk about it at the pub. We talk about our success, but not the hard stuff. So the Real Tradie Stories have really given the opportunity to shine the light on the fact that it is a journey and we all have hard times and there is a way through. The other thing we did during the COVID times, we introduced an almost daily TradieRonaCast. My goodness, that was a lot of work. Some of the episodes were super, super short, down to 10, 15 minutes. And in fact, that's motivated the shift in the podcast since then to have much shorter episodes for the most part. Keep them short, spicy, and interesting. These days, they're very much the same, and we occasionally have ones that run a little longer, but a lot of that started with the TradieRonaCast. We did those almost daily for, well, it looks like here, episode 310, right the way through to episode 389. Well, almost daily podcasts. We had a lot of feedback around that time. It was a pretty dark time for many of us in business. It was an amazing time for us here at Tradies in Business because we got to speak to so many more of you as the whole online concept of doing business became something that we were all available to explore. It kind of forced our hand a bit. It meant that we got to have many more conversations with people like you, which was really, really cool. Loved the TradieRonaCast, loved coming up with daily ideas. It really kept us motivated, stimulated. We had to work really hard. It was a really good time in the Tradies in Business podcast as well. And then we've had some amazing guests over the years. I was looking through this morning at all of the different guests that we've had, thinking about people like, wow, we have some of our own clients, like Lydia from Bar Autos. That was one of my very favorite early episodes that we did. We've had heaps and heaps of our clients on. We've had a couple clients join us on the show as well. We've had amazing people like Alan Dibb. Came on and talked about marketing, and we've gone on to work with him in various ways since then. We had Dan Lee from Plum Properties, one of my favorite episodes still. He was just somebody really funny I found on Instagram that was open to the idea of coming on to our Little Trade Business podcast and gave some of the best business advice, and we had so many laughs. He's a very, very funny dude. We've had the amazing opportunity to talk to people from all over the world, not necessarily just in Australia, but all over the world. We have spoken with doctors, we've spoken with scientists, we've spoken with business owners, we've spoken with stars and BMX bike champions and ninja warriors and mums and dads and incredible people just like you. We've had a lot of fun with our clients, and we had a lot of fun together. So many of our episodes were the two of us together. Clearly, everything looks a little bit different now. These days, it's me solo. We only drop an episode every fortnight, and we do a lot of guest interviews. We don't do many of these solo episodes anymore because I can't stand the sound of my own voice. I'm sure many of you don't want to listen to me bang on and on and on. So as we've started this year, we started on rebranded and went back out on the 3rd of June. And we started with Brandon from Where You, which was an awesome conversation. That guy is really to the point and matter of fact, and it brought a lot of energy to the show. We spoke to Sky about the whole ADHD opportunity for those of us that have been diagnosed. We've had Miles from Astley Electrical, the wonderful Di, where we were talking mindset. We had Anthony, a finance broker who is blending finance broking or money management and breathwork. We went on to do an amazing session for our TradiePreneur Masters members with Anthony. It was incredible. Prompted some huge shifts for some of our members. We had Tyson, one of our mechanics from the Sunshine Coast. Then we had Reese. And Reese's episode is still one of my very favorites because Reese is the most unlikely trade business owner I've ever met, and yet he's doing an incredible job. We had Mick. Mick came to join us. We spoke about leadership. He had some really practical advice on leadership in trades as a former tradie himself. We had a lot of fun with the two drunk accountants with the rats in the office. And we've since had an update to that story that's super, super funny. So make sure that you go back and listen to that episode. Brendan Wiley, one of our builders from Harvey Bay, shared a lot of inspiration around the shifts that he had made in the 12 months we've been working together, all of which started inside himself. We had my little Blakey come on and talk about AI and the opportunities, but more than anything, he actually spoke about his own story and how ego got in the way for him and what that has meant for him moving forward. I really enjoyed that chat. I was very proud of my boy. We had Phil and Adam. Man, this episode is still right up there for me. Everybody that knows me well knows how much I love Top Fuel racing. And so speaking to Phil Reed was just an absolute moment for me. I really, really enjoyed it. And then Adam from Snap-on Tools was on the show as well. So we got to talk all things their breast cancer fundraising, or actually now it's their cancer fundraising, which was just amazing. And most recently we've had Dr. Ash come to talk to us, and then we've had John Broadbent. So lots of fun stuff on the podcast still. Our plan for next year is very, very much the same. We'll keep plodding away with our fortnightly episodes. Most of all, today, we wanted to celebrate our 700th episode here on the Tradies in Business podcast. We're going to remind you and take you on a big old trip down memory lane. And at this point of the podcast, our lovely team here at Tradies in Business are going to insert a bunch of the old intros for you so you can have a bit of a listen and a giggle with how we've changed over the years.
Flashback.
Welcome to the Tradies Business Show, helping you get off the tools and into true business ownership so you can spend more time doing the things that matter most. Now, here are your hosts, Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark. Welcome to the Tradies Business Show with Warwick Bidwell. Talking business ownership, the nuts and bolts, and everything in between. Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business. Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
G'day, I'm Waz.
And I'm Nick, sometimes Coxie, mostly Nick.
This is the Tradies in Business podcast, and we're here to share a bunch of tips, ideas, tactics that you can put in place to get change happening in your trade business right now.
If you're really lucky, we're going to entertain you with a few mum jokes and, more importantly, a bunch of fantastic guests that will educate you in all things you need to know about trade business. But we do promise to do it with a whole bunch of fun along the way.
I'm a self-confessed idiot, so strap yourself in and enjoy another episode.
End of flashback.
I'd love to say thank you to you, our listeners. It's amazing to still have your incredible support running this solo on my own now. But to think that so many of you have been around right from the very beginning and you continue to listen every time we drop an episode. I'd love to throw a really cheeky thanks to Michaela, who was around in the beginning and really set the tone with Warwick for the podcast. And of course, this was always Warwick's baby. It was something he was so incredibly proud of. I hope he's still proud. I hope he still has the opportunity to listen to some of the episodes. It truly is a legacy for him and all he has done here for us at Tradies in Business. We miss you, Oz. Hope you get to listen to this one sometime soon. And I hope all of you listeners enjoy this stroll down memory lane.
You've been listening to Tradies in Business podcast with Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.